First Year, Part 13, The Christmas Gift. A.M. Ashwin. Throughout lunchtime the next day, Aileen and I discussed how we planned to bring up the subject of Shem to Hagrid. We decided we would go talk to him in his hut because we didn't want the professors or students to overhear us talking about it in the castle. As soon as we finished eating lunch, we bundled up and went outside. Hagrid's small, shabby hut was located on the edge of the Forbidden Forest, and a few chopped-down pines lay beside the house. We reached Hagrid's door and I knocked softly. After a moment of waiting, I knocked again, louder. The door opened slowly and Hagrid stood before us. Hagrid was huge, much bigger up close. He was at least 10 feet tall, and more than twice as wide. I had to crane my neck to look up at him. Hagrid stood in the doorway, looking around for whoever had knocked. "Hagrid?" I asked. He looked down, letting out a surprised sound when he saw us. "Oh, sorry about that. What can I do for you?" "We need your help," Aileen said. "We need to talk to you. Can we come in?" Hagrid looked confused, scratching his head, but after a second motioned for us to come inside. I stepped inside the warm hut, glancing around me. Empty cages were everywhere, and the table was littered with weird contraptions. Hams and pheasants hung from the ceiling, and a small fire crackled in the fireplace. In the corner stood a massive bed with a red patchwork quilt. It looked a bit odd, but it was cozy and warm. "Would you like some tea?" Hagrid asked, taking a kettle of boiling water from the fireplace. "If it's no trouble," I said. "Thank you." Hagrid poured the hot water into 2 mugs, and handed one to each of us, motioning for us to sit down at a small table. "So, why is it you wanted to talk to me?" "Well," I said, setting the mug of steaming tea down on the table. "We need your help, Hagrid. But, we need you to promise not to tell anyone." "My help? With what?" "I'ma telling you right now, I'ma know all they're good at keeping secrets." "We know how much you love magical creatures, Hagrid," I started. "So if one was in danger, we thought you'd help us help it." "That's right," Aileen agreed. "But, in order for us to help it, we need your help. But we can't help it if you tell anyone about this because then we would be in huge trouble. Do you understand?" I think so," Hagrid said, though he looked quite confused. "So will you promise not to tell?" Aileen asked. "Now, I can't be making any promises," Hagrid said. "I told you, I'm no good at keeping secrets." "Will you at least try to keep it a secret?" I asked. "I'll try," Hagrid said. "But don't say I didn't warn you." "Well, it all started on Thursday." Aileen started. We told Hagrid everything, Aileen and I taking turns to tell the story. When we finished telling Hagrid everything, I took a deep breath and let it out slowly, waiting for Hagrid's reaction. "So," I asked, "will you help us? Will you keep it a secret as well?" Aileen asked. "Well, I don't know," Hagrid said thoughtfully. "Professor Dumbledore should know this. It wouldn't be right to hide a—" "Please," I interrupted. "Please, Hagrid, you can't tell. We could get in so much trouble for being in the Forbidden Forest and bringing Shem back with us. We could get expelled. Please, don't tell." "Oh, all right," Hagrid said, if somewhat hesitantly. "Going back into the Forbidden Forest is dangerous. If anything goes wrong, we'll need to have a way to get you two back to the castle safely." I took a sip of the tea Hagrid had given us. I had forgotten all about it as we told Hagrid everything, so it was now cold. I choked on the bitter taste as it went down my throat and set the cup down. "The first step will be to lure Shem's uncle out with bait," Aileen said. "The bait will be Shem, of course. Once his uncle is away from Shem's father, one of us will need to get Shem's father to come and accidentally witness his uncle trying to kill Shem. We also need to make sure Shem's safe when we do all this," I said to Hagrid. "Right," Aileen agreed. "Meanwhile, the other 2 of us will follow Shem and his uncle. We'll keep our eyes on them, and if his uncle tries anything, we'll stop him. Hopefully, if all goes to plan, that won't happen though." "Senors and this half-Vampirin will be able to smell us though," Hagrid said. "I might have something further though. It smells bad, but it'll work." Once Sham's father has seen everything and knows his brother is evil, Aileen continued, we'll need to convince him to stop his brother. But Sham's father alone might not be sufficient enough. We need to make sure the other centaurs are within close distance. But not so close that Sham's uncle senses them. And then it's done, I said. Sham is safe and back where he belongs. I couldn't help feeling a little sad at the thought of Sham leaving. If the plan fails, we need to have plan B in place, Aileen said. You should always have another plan if the first one fails. What's plan B? I asked. I don't know. We need to think of all possible outcomes, and be ready for them. Well, we have less than 4 days to do that, I said. I still don't know of this, Hagrid said, glancing between the two of us. You're so young, and you can defend yourselves if anything happens. That's why we have you, I said, smiling up at Hagrid. And we'll have a plan of escape if it doesn't go according to plan. I don't have a wand, Hagrid spoke doubtfully. Just this pink umbrella. Hagrid pulled a bright, pink umbrella out of his coat pocket. What can that do, if you don't mind me asking? Aileen asked, raising a skeptical eyebrow at the thing. Hagrid swished the umbrella, much like you would a wand, and lit the 2 candles that were on the table. It can do a bit of magic, but no much, Hagrid said, placing the umbrella back in his coat pocket. We need to help Sham, I said. Despite the risks. We just need to make sure we can get out if we need to. We'll be fine, Hagrid. All right, Hagrid said, but I want to go meet Sham. Right now? I asked, glancing out the window at the darkened sky. I hadn't realized we'd been gone for so long. Yeah, Hagrid said. But you can't, Hagrid, Aileen said. Why on earth no? Hagrid asked. The passageway, I said, remembering how small it was. Well, it's quite small, and, well, you know, I struggled to find the right words so as not to insult Hagrid about his size. I think it would be too small to fit you. It only just fits Sham. Oh, Hagrid said, I suppose I'll have to meet him when it's time to go then. We'll go on the 29th, Aileen said. That's the latest we can go by. Sham said if we don't go by then he'll go back by himself. It will give us all time to think and prepare. We'll come visit you every day, Hagrid, I said, standing up, to keep you updated on the plan. All right, Hagrid said, standing up. Aileen and I stood as well and put on our coats which we had taken off when he came sat down. Thank you, Hagrid, I said as Aileen and I were about to leave, giving him a warm smile. Thank you for agreeing to help us. Well, I hope I don't regret it, Hagrid said, waving goodbye to us as we walked in the direction of the castle. After bringing Sham food and telling him what Hagrid said, Aileen and I stayed with him for a little while before going back to our dormitories. I went straight to bed, despite it only being 7. I fell right asleep but woke in the middle of the night from a nightmare I had about Sham's uncle. He had killed Sham in the nightmare, and I found it hard to fall back asleep. After breakfast the next day, I came back to my room to find 3 presents sitting on my bed. The first was from Aunt Cora. It was a large green turtleneck shirt with a Slytherin crest on the front. I sighed and set it down, knowing I would never wear it. Aunt Cora hadn't been happy when I had been sorted in Gryffindor, and every here and there she would send me something to remind me I should have been in Slytherin, like her. The next one was from Frank. I opened this one eagerly to find a variety of homemade sweets and a short letter from Frank. In the letter he wished me a Merry Christmas and said his mum had made far too many sweets, so he was able to send some to all of his friends. I smiled and bit into a piece of chocolate fudge from the box. I felt a little bad I hadn't gotten Frank anything. Or Aileen, for that matter. But, with all that had been going on, I hadn't even given it thought. Besides, where would I get them presents from? The last box was small, with a name tag that said Anonymous on it. I frowned, wondering who it could possibly be from. I opened the box to find 4 vintage-looking necklaces in it. There was a small note inside the box. I opened it and read it. Dear Alexa. These are 4 very special necklaces. They will help you in more ways than you can imagine. Press one of the 3 small jewels on the points of the necklace, and you will be able to contact whoever owns that colored necklace. Press the large middle jewel to contact all who wear one of the necklaces. Only give the necklaces to your closest friends, Alexa, and to those you know you can trust completely. In the wrong hands, they can be dangerous. Yours truly. Anonymous. I reread the note a few times, trying to think who it could possibly be from. Giving up, I placed the note back in the box and took out one of the 4 necklaces. It was triangle-shaped, with a large, yellow jewel in the middle. On each point of the triangle, a different color jewel rested. After studying it for a minute, I realized that the color of each jewel was the color of one of Hogwarts' houses. On the back of the necklace, there was a carving of a badger. Hufflepuff animal. I looked at the 4 necklaces. Each had the color of a house for the middle jewel, and the other 3 house colors set in the corners of the necklace in smaller jewels. I pocketed the necklaces and threw away all the wrapping paper. I decided I would send Frank one of the necklaces, as a Christmas gift. But not until I figured out how they worked. Arriving at dinner time, I saw everyone who sitting at one long table in the middle of the Great Hall. Aileen was at the far end of the table. I made my way over to Aileen, who was eating some kind of food I'd never seen before, and sat down. "What took you so long?" Aileen asked. "The feast started 20 minutes ago." "I have a present for you." I handed her one of the necklaces, the one with the green jewel as its main stone. She took it, studying it much as I had. "I got 4 of these necklaces from someone," I said, starting to fill my plate with food. "I don't know who." The note said anonymous. The note in the gift box said that the ones who wear the necklaces can communicate with each other by pressing one of the jewels. But, I'm not sure how it works exactly. "Put it once so we can see if it works." I placed the necklace with the red stone, the color of Gryffindor, around my neck. "Okay," Aileen said, standing up and putting the necklace on. "But I think it's a little suspicious that the giver didn't give their name. I'll go over to that side of the room, and press one of the jewels." "Which color should I press?" "Red," I said. "That's the color of my necklace." When Aileen reached the other side of the room, I saw her lips move as she said something. I could hear what she said. Her voice didn't come in through the necklace itself. I could hear her voice inside my head. I looked around, seeing if anybody had heard her. Everyone continued to eat, ignoring me. "Can you hear me?" Aileen's voice whispered in my head. "Does it work?" It felt so weird to hear Aileen's voice in my head. It wasn't quite the same as hearing her voice if she was speaking to me directly. I nodded my head at her in answer, and then pressed down on the green jewel. "Yes. Can you hear me?" I whispered the question so quietly that even if Aileen had been right next to me, she wouldn't have heard. From across the room, I saw Aileen nod her head and walk back to where I was sitting. "These could come in handy," Aileen said. "How many do you have?" 4. "And each one has a different colored stone in the center. Green, blue, red and yellow. The 4 Hogwarts house colors." "I wonder what that means," Aileen said. "Who are you going to give the other necklaces to?" "I'm going to send one to Frank," I said, taking a bite of the strange food I'd seen Aileen eating when I first came in. It tasted like some kind of fruit. "I don't know who I'll give the other necklace to. I don't have any other friends." Aileen was quiet for a moment and then said, "What about Shem?" "I don't know," I said thoughtfully. "I mean, I only met him a few days ago." The note said to give it to only those I completely trusted. It's not that I don't trust him, it's just that I've only known him for a couple days. I don't think we can be considered best friends just yet. "Maybe don't give it to him," Aileen said, "just let him borrow it when we bring him back into the forest. It could really help if we were all able to communicate without anyone knowing." "Okay," I agreed. Suddenly, a thought came to me. "Aileen, what if the necklace doesn't work unless its owner is in a Hogwarts house? The house color of the necklace?" "There's only one way of knowing," Aileen said, standing up. "Ready to go see Shem?" "All right," I said, standing up. "Oh, and should bring some games to play. You know, to take our minds off everything and enjoy Christmas. How about I pack the food and you go get the games?" "All right," Aileen said. "I'll bring exploding Snap and Wizard Skittles." As soon as Aileen left, I began to pack food into my school bag, being as discreet as possible. I packed as much food as I could fit in my school bag. Apparently, I wasn't discreet enough though. "Alexa?" A voice spoke from behind me as I stood to leave. I turned to see Dumbledore standing there. "Yes, sir?" I asked, trying to hide the bag behind my back. "Might I ask where you are bringing all that food?" "It's enough to feed 4 people at least." I'm having a picnic," I said, thinking quickly. It wasn't a lie, not exactly. "A picnic?" Dumbledore's eyes twinkled. "In this weather?" "Oh, no," I said. "I mean, we're having an indoor picnic." "I see," he said, reaching into a bowl of candy and unpeeling a piece. "I hope you have fun. Merry Christmas, Alexa." He popped the piece of candy in his mouth. "You too, Professor," I said. "Merry Christmas." I turned and all but ran out of the Great Hall. That was a close call. I wondered how Professor Dumbledore had known my name. There were hundreds of students in Hogwarts, he couldn't possibly know all of our names. I suppose most people here probably knew of me. I was Hogwarts freak, what with my strange eye and the wooden leg. I met Aileen at the entrance to the passageway 5 minutes later. "I hope we weren't followed," I said as we entered the dark passageway. It was kind of hard to sneak this much food away. Professor Dumbledore asked me what I was doing with it all. I told him we were having an indoor picnic. "Did you bring enough for that?" Aileen asked, laughing lightly. "Yeah," I said. "I'm full though, and I can't possibly eat a morsel of it. But you know how big Sham's appetite is." We walked in silence until we neared the room Sham was in. "Aileen," I said. "Let's just enjoy Christmas, and try not to worry too much about Sham and what we're going to do. Let's try to get Sham's mind of things as well." "That'll be hard to do, but okay," Aileen said. "We'll just tell him what Hagrid said and play games the rest of the day." That was exactly what we did for the remainder of the day. For hours we played Wizard Skittles, Exploding Snap, and a mull game called Uno. We learned quickly that Sham didn't like losing, but despite him never having played these games before, he was surprisingly quick to learn and he only lost a few games. The games worked in distracting Sham, but it didn't seem to take Aileen's mind off everything. She kept getting a contemplative look on her face and I knew she wasn't thinking about the game. Despite my earlier comment on being too full to eat, I got hungry halfway through the second game and snacked on the food. Even though I had only known Sham for a few days, it felt like he was a friend to me. I wondered if he felt the same. When I gave Sham the necklace, I didn't say it was for him to borrow, like I had originally planned. I told him it was a Christmas gift. He seemed a bit confused as to why I had gotten him a necklace for Christmas. I explained that it was a magical necklace and how I had gotten it. The jewel in the middle turned blue when Sham put it on. "Looks like you're a Ravenclaw," Aileen said. "But I'm not in Hogwarts," Sham said. "It must be able to tell what you are," I said. "Just like the sorting hat when you put it on," I said. "What's a sorting hat?" Sham asked. "Is it something that sorts you into one of Hogwarts' houses?" "Yes," Aileen answered. "The first-year students are sorted upon arriving. The sorting hat is placed on the student's head, and the hat chooses what house they best belong in." "What's a Ravenclaw?" Sham asked. "They're like the smart house," I said. I could see Sham puffing up a little with pride at that and I had to hold back a grin. We continued to play games well past curfew. When I could barely keep my eyes open, I was so tired, Aileen and I left, leaving Sham with the rest of the food. We had to sneak back to our dormitories, and I was almost caught by Filch, but just managed to escape him and his cat. As I lay down in my warm bed, I smiled, thinking about the day I had had. As I drifted off to sleep, I remembered I hadn't sent Frank the necklace. Oh well, I would have to do that tomorrow. Author's note. I hope you all had a Merry Christmas. At the time of writing this chapter it was actually Christmas week in real life. Anyhow, I hoped you guys liked this chapter. Smile. Sorry if Hagrid's dialect is hard to read or confusing. It's a lot harder to write than you would think. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.